So I got pretty average grades, and I still managed to land a job as a software engineer, and I'm still getting interviews and offers from other tech companies and some big tech companies. And I'm gonna go talk about my experiences and maybe make you feel a bit better about your situation, and then what I would do if I could go back and talk about whether getting these grades is it even worth it. And kind of talk about that topic. So yeah, my grades were pretty average. So if you're in the UK, you'll know about like GCSEs and A levels. I got like I so my GCSEs I did like okay, and I got like A's and B's. So yeah, but then my A levels I did horribly. I barely studied, and I got like B's, C's, and D's, and it was just enough to go through clearing and get into a like an average uni. And I've still managed to get offers and land a role as software engineer, and I'll kind of talk about um, how I managed to do that. So yeah, I think first and foremost, it's kind of what you make of it. So for example, if you're, the situation I was in where, I've still managed to get into a uni, and with my grades, I wasn't just gonna sit there and be like, cool, now this is it, this is my situation, I'm never gonna get a job. Rather than having that mindset, I then started to think, outside the box. Surely I can still work my way up. Surely I can still land a role. Like there must be other opportunities out there, and there's plenty of companies out there that they aren't big tech, but they are still tech companies that will take students as long as you've got a degree, for example, or as long as you know how to code. And so um, that essentially was the route I took. So I straight away got stuck in building projects and studying for interviews, and was able to land an offer. And to this day, I've been interviewed and I've not been asked about my UCAS points or my GCSEs or my A levels. Having said that, I will say I did close a lot of doors, and it actually made my life a lot harder because I had to play essentially catch up. I put put myself at a disadvantage because first and foremost, the skills that it takes to get these grades at school is essentially at its core the same type of skills you're going to need to study for these interviews and land these roles. Not only that, there are a lot of tech companies and big tech companies that look at specific unis and hire, prefer to hire from certain unis which require those high grades, or a lot of these big banks and finance companies who do the same thing as well. And having got my average grades, I did really close a lot of doors on myself because I wasn't able to compete with these other students who were just at better unis with better grades. But I think more importantly than that, let's say I don't want to work at these type of companies anyway. I then had to learn how to study. I had to sit down and be like, the same skills that these students are using to get these good grades, I now need to learn from scratch. So I need to learn how to organize myself. I need to learn how to sit down and dedicate X amount of hours over a certain period of time to study. And let's say, okay, it isn't. I'm not going to be studying science or math or English or whatever. That same concept I need to then apply to studying leak code or systems design or whatever it is I'm going to be studying for to get to land these big tech roles essentially. And I think that is the most important part. And should you focus on school? Should you just forget it? I think do yourself a favor and just don't close as many doors as you can. So if you have the opportunity to study and get these high grades so that you don't make your life harder, first and foremost, the skills that you're going to learn from being able to sit down and revise and actually get those high grades are going to be the same skills you use when you're studying for your interviews, right? But then, you're also going to be building that discipline, right? And if you land, if you get these grades, you're going to be in, maybe a better university where the networking opportunities are better, right? So you've got all these other doors that are opening for you. And but yeah, I also at the same time don't think you should get too sucked into it, where you're so focused on your grades that you forget about building your projects and building your portfolio and getting your GitHub profile looking good, your networking opportunities. You start to just lock yourself in your room and study. That you're not going out, you're not meeting new people, you're not having a social life as well, which is just as important. Um, but yeah, so I'm kind of just making this video to show that like you can still be a software engineer, you can still even make it to big tech and not be a straight A star AAA student. But at the same time, if you're listening to this and you have the opportunity, you're still in school, um, get the grades whilst you can, because it's only going to make your life harder. And this is my 2 cents. Obviously, this topic is like up for discussion, and if you want to comment and then like raise your point in the comments, feel free. This is just from my personal experience, from the people I've seen around me. I've seen people, make it to one of the biggest tech companies I know, and um, and they were absolutely flunking their school the whole time. And on the other side, I've seen the most successful devs, and they've got great grades and made it into very good universities, and were just locked in from young, and they're just still as disciplined, right? And so I've seen two sides of the coin, and if I could go back in time, I obviously don't regret anything, but if I could go back in time, I think studying and getting good grades, that discipline and the skills you learn from that is more important, just as important. Yeah, it's hard to see it when you're in it, and you might not see the benefit of studying some bullshit, subject you don't actually care about. But it's temporary and it will fly by, and you'll be able to look back and be like, that was you know, a fun part of my life. But well, fun. I don't know if it's not fun when you're actually studying, but now I'm getting close to UNC status, or not really, but like I'm getting older, and I'm looking back at high school and A levels, and I'm thinking like, those are good times. And when you're in it, it just feels like the end of the world, and these exams are killing you and stuff. But stay strong, stay disciplined, and yeah, you can still definitely make it to these big tech companies, and be a software engineer without being a straight A student. So yeah, I rambled on a bit at the end there, but I hope this video was useful, and we'll see you in the next one.